In 2020, a handshake sealed what the world called a balanced trade deal between Canada and the United States. Flashbulbs popped, politicians smiled, headlines shouted fairness and cooperation. But beneath the surface, Canada quietly played a smarter game than most expected. While the US believed it was leading the negotiation, Canada walked away holding stronger cards, more protections, better controls, and fewer sacrifices than anyone realized. This is not just a story about tariffs or dairy wars. This is a story about outthinking a global superpower. How did Canada pull off this surprising win? Why did so many miss it? And what exactly did America give away without noticing? This video will take you behind the scenes of a deal that seemed equal, but was anything but. Number 10, Chapter 19, Keeping the Arbitration Shield. The US wanted to scrap Chapter 19, a key part of the previous trade deal. What is Chapter 19? It's a special dispute resolution system that lets Canada challenge unfair US trade duties before an independent panel, rather than relying on American courts where the US usually wins. Imagine you're a Canadian lumber exporter. The US suddenly slaps tariffs on your wood, claiming unfair trade practices. Without Chapter 19, Canada would have to fight these tariffs in American courts, which historically side with US businesses about 90% of the time. With Chapter 19, Canada can call in neutral judges to review and possibly overturn those tariffs. The US assumed Canada would give this up under pressure. Experts predicted Canada would fold, but Canada stood firm. By preserving Chapter 19, Canada kept one of its strongest legal tools. This means Canada can fight back when the US tries to impose unfair duties, and win. This shield is crucial because smaller countries rarely win when forced to face trade giants on their home turf. While the world focused on trade headlines, Canada quietly secured a powerful defense mechanism. Most Americans still don't realize this was one of Canada's biggest wins. Number 9. Dairy, holding the line with minimal concessions. Dairy has long been a sacred part of Canada's economy. The supply management system protects family farms from market swings and flooding by foreign milk. Before the deal, the media predicted doomed milk prices would skyrocket. Thousands of family farms would close. Canada would be forced to open its dairy market wide to US imports. But Canada surprised everyone. It gave up only 3.59% of its dairy market, a tiny concession compared to fears. In return, it kept price controls and quota systems intact, preserving stability for farmers. The US believed it won a major victory on dairy. But Canada's strategy was smart. They gave enough to satisfy American demands, but kept the backbone of their dairy system strong. This was not a loss. It was a calculated sacrifice. Most people missed how important this was. Number 8. E-commerce, raising the de minimis threshold and unlocking digital trade. Small Canadian businesses worried that stricter rules would make cross-border selling harder. Consumers feared new taxes and import fees on online orders. But something unexpected happened in the fine print. Canada negotiated a significant increase in the de minimis threshold, the value limit under which goods can be imported without taxes or duties. Here's what changed. Sales tax exemption rose from $20 to $40 Canadian. Customs duty exemption increased to $150 Canadian. This leap means Canadians can shop more from global online stores without paying extra fees. For online buyers, this means lower costs, faster deliveries, fewer surprises at the border, but the benefits don't stop there. Small and medium-sized businesses now enjoy faster customs processing and reduced paperwork. This makes selling online internationally easier and more competitive. While the spotlight was on autos and steel, Canada quietly gave its digital economy a big boost. Number 7. Automotive industry's lifeline, the secret side letter. Back in 2018, threats of US tariffs on cars really shook Canada's auto industry. Factories were worried about possible shutdowns, and honestly, jobs in cities like Windsor and Oshawa seemed at risk. A lot of folks believed Canada had absolutely no bargaining power. But behind the scenes, Canada actually negotiated a secret agreement, a side letter. This letter allowed Canada to export up to 2.6 million vehicles a year tariff-free, which, by the way, is more than Canada even makes. It also locked in $32.4 billion in auto parts exports, shielding them from protectionist taxes. While political posturing grabbed all the headlines, Canada was quietly safeguarding its economic lifeline. This move protected tens of thousands of jobs and kept plants running. It was a quiet win that honestly, very few saw coming. Number 6, critical minerals turning dirt into power. So, electric vehicles are pretty much the future. But building EV batteries actually requires critical minerals like lithium and cobalt. Here's the thing. China controls over 60% of the global lithium refining, and the US has pretty limited domestic supplies. Canada, for the most part, was kind of overlooked in this whole race. But buried in Canadian soil, there's a real treasure trove. Lithium in Quebec, cobalt in Ontario, and rare earth minerals up in the Northwest Territories. Canada used this to its advantage and secured eligibility under the US Inflation Reduction Act. That means EVs made with Canadian-sourced minerals qualify for up to $7,500 in US tax credits. Why is this such a big deal? Only countries with free trade agreements actually get this benefit. Canada's natural resources turned into political leverage. So, while others got locked out, Canada cashed in on its underground wealth. Number 5. Energy integration, securing the flow of oil and power. For a while, energy exports seemed kind of doomed. Oil prices had plummeted, the Keystone XL pipeline got canceled, and the US was talking a lot about energy independence. Alberta faced job losses and a ton of economic uncertainty, but Canada quietly worked to lock in energy integration through the New Deal. This meant legally guaranteed cross-border flows of oil and electricity. Why does this matter? Well, Canada sends over 4 million barrels of oil a day to the US, more than any other country, even Saudi Arabia. Canadian hydroelectricity powers more than 6 million US homes. Thanks to side agreements, pipelines like Enbridge Line 5 are now protected from political shutdowns. So, no longer can US states just cut off Canada's energy supply over disagreements. This ensures steady energy supplies for millions on both sides. Number 4, customs and digital trade modernization, cutting through the red tape. Shipping across the border used to be, well, pretty complicated. Outdated paperwork caused delays and high costs, and honestly, small Canadian businesses suffered the most. But the New Deal brought modernization. Now there are single-window clearance systems and faster digital customs processing, plus there's duty-free treatment for digital products like software and streaming services. This is about more than just saving time. It really cuts costs and removes barriers, helping Canadian businesses compete globally. So, whether you sell handmade goods or digital apps, crossing the border is easier than ever. Number 3, the first currency chapter, a shield against unfair exchange rates. Currency manipulation is, a silent weapon in trade. Countries sometimes devalue their money to make exports cheaper. Canada had no way to respond when the United States played this game. That meant Canadian exporters lost sales and profits. But the new trade deal changes that. It actually includes the first ever enforceable currency chapter in North American trade. Now, Canada, the United States, and Mexico must publicly disclose foreign exchange reserves, reveal market interventions, and follow fair monetary policies. Canada finally has legal means to fight unfair currency moves. This protects Canadian businesses from sudden shocks and unfair competition. Number 2, intellectual property and data protections, a strategic trade-off. The deal extended data protection for biologic drugs from 8 to 10 years. Critics warned this would raise drug prices and delay generics. But that's only part of the story. Canada made this concession to win bigger battles in digital trade. It gained stronger enforcement of intellectual property laws, clearer copyright rules, and better protections for creators like app developers, authors, and artists. Now Canadian innovators have protections matching United States standards. This opens global markets and helps Canadian creativity thrive. In the digital age, this is a major win. Number 1, anti-corruption and labor value content rules, raising the bar. Mexico's factories were often criticized for low wages and poor working conditions. Meanwhile, wages in parts of the United States and Canada were stagnant. Some companies tried to cut costs by outsourcing to cheap labor. The New Deal tackles this with labor value content rules. For a car to qualify for duty-free status, at least 40% of its parts must be made by workers earning $16 per hour or more. This stops companies from racing to the bottom. It forces automakers to invest in fair jobs and safe workplaces. The deal also includes anti-corruption measures. Trade is not only fairer, but cleaner. Canada didn't just protect its economy, it pushed the entire continent toward a more ethical future. So while United States leaders smiled for cameras and declared victory, Canada was quietly securing power in the fine print. From critical minerals to clean energy, from intellectual property to labor protections, Canada walked into talks with less leverage, but walked away with more than anyone expected. This trade deal was not just a handshake, it was Canada's masterclass in trade diplomacy and strategy. And now you know the real story behind the headlines. Thank you